This program has been made to equip peanut farmers, peanut processors, and extension personnel in the Ministry of Agriculture and field officers in the Ministry of Public Health and Sanitation with knowledge on human exposure to aflatoxins, their effects on both human and animal health and trade. Its aim is to outline possible aflatoxin management strategies and provide information on how to reduce aflatoxin exposure to peanut consumers and consequently help curb this fast-growing menace. Subsistence farming is the lifeblood of many households in Nyakach in Nyanza province in Kenya. The district overlooks the second largest freshwater body in the world, Lake Victoria, where fish is the major source of protein and forms part of a thriving trade. However, many families are now turning towards the farming of cereals and legumes to supplement diets and enhance food security. Farming is indeed becoming an integral part of this rural economy. Charles Gondi is one such farmer, and he is tilling the land with his family in readiness to plant a fresh crop of groundnuts. Groundnuts are legumes and are rich in protein. Originally introduced by the colonialists, groundnuts are gradually becoming part of a daily diet, thus enhancing food security. And it is not just at the subsistence level that groundnuts are having an impact and cutting a niche. A thriving trade centered around value addition for groundnuts provides a source of livelihood for a good number of people in these parts.
The value addition that we do to peanut butter is just making it something just wonderful. Initially, we looked at it like a subsistent crop. Maybe you have some groundnuts in your place. When a visitor comes, you can roast it, or maybe with your family take it for breakfast, and that was all. Right now, we are thinking about it commercially. It can be taken as a meal in an hotel. You can take it as a meal in your home. And so the commercial value of it goes along that line.
And as would be expected, the popularity of this delicacy as a major part of the local diet has also created new, hitherto unknown challenges in terms of what best practices to be employed during pre- and post-harvest stages.
When the groundnuts are bad, it means definitely our customers are going to have problems with the product that you're going to have at the long last.
In East Africa, everybody associates aflatoxin contamination with maize, but it's a very serious problem in a lot of crops, including groundnuts.
This has been a major source of concern, not just here, but right across the country, when farmers and their families fall victim to the ravages of what is rapidly becoming the curse of many a farmer: aflatoxin poisoning. In the past, mention the word aflatoxin and you would be met with blank looks. Today, it is a word that strikes terror in the hearts of not only peasant farmers but all those who consume their produce.
Wanasikia tu, lakini mtu hawezi kuambia eti mimi anagonjeka na hii, daktari ndio wanakuambia eti hivi, lakini hii mgonjwa wa aflatoxin iko na watu mingi.
Aflatoxins are natural toxins that are produced by fungi, especially those that we call Aspergillus flavus and Aspergillus parasiticus. They are odorless, they are colorless, so you cannot be able to detect them with your naked eye. And you're basically exposed through several ways. For example, you can get them through the skin, you can inhale them, you can get exposure through the eyes, but the most common type of exposure is ingestion. That means you eat food that is contaminated with a toxin.
As early as the late 70s through to the early 90s, minor cases of aflatoxin poisoning had been scantily reported in various parts of the country, albeit predominantly in eastern Kenya.
We have fatalities that were reported in the 1980s. In fact, in 1981, there was an incident where we had about 12 fatalities in Machakos. We have incidences reported in the 1990s. In fact, this one was on the other side of Kenya, that is Marakwet, where you had about 9 fatalities reported.
The most catastrophic and severe case that raised the red flag was in 2004, when 125 people were reported dead and nearly 200 others hospitalized after consuming aflatoxin-contaminated maize. The deaths were mainly associated with homegrown maize that had been stored poorly.
We have sections of the country that have been found to have a very high concentration of Aspergillus flavus S strain, that is the one that produces very high levels of aflatoxin. And one such example is Eastern Kenya. You ask yourself, why do we get repeated cases of acute poisoning in Eastern Kenya? That's because the soil load has a very high concentration of Aspergillus flavus S strain that produces the very high levels of aflatoxin.
Due to a lack of awareness at the time on dangers of harvesting and storing maize grain that was not properly dried, exacerbated by poor storage conditions, farmers unknowingly increased their risk of exposure to aflatoxin. Coupled with this, the dire food security situation did not give farmers an alternative to consuming contaminated grain. Hence, the high fatalities recorded. This major incident had various government departments scratching their heads to cope with the ever-growing emergence of new cases of aflatoxin poisoning.
Arms of government that have the mandate to seize, to monitor, should do this more stringently so that we don't have the unscrupulous traders having a field day and spreading contaminated produce without the knowledge of the end consumer.
One of the core functions of the Department of Public Safety and Health in the Ministry of Public Health and Sanitation is to ensure that food safety measures are in place when handling food from farm to fork, therefore ensuring that the end product does not cause any harm to the consumer. The responsibility to deal with the emergence of a new threat to food security was thus placed at their feet.
We are supposed to prevent the food reaching the consumer. In that's a regulatory aspect. And there is also the issue of promotion, that we are supposed to be part of those stakeholders who are contributing to information dissemination in terms of the effect and the causes of aflatoxin.
And it has not been easy. Evidently, curative measures have not been very effective in managing the aflatoxin nuisance. Rather than employing a responsive approach to the problem, incorporating preventive measures and embracing an integrated approach to managing the problem was deemed as a more effective solution. One of the key remedies mooted is the education of stakeholders and getting them to understand what aflatoxins are.
Our officers must be trained on how they can actually assess what can be suspected as something that is actually of danger to people, including aflatoxin.
With major national focus having mostly been on maize as the main staple for majority of Kenyans, in 2010, up to 2.3 million bags of maize were considered unfit for human consumption by the National Cereals and Produce Board, as a result of the high levels of aflatoxin found in the maize. On the contrary, little or no attention has been given by authorities to other types of agricultural produce that are favorable substrates for aflatoxin contamination. From a nationwide survey that was carried out by the International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics ICRISAT, over a third of groundnut products sold formally or informally in different parts of the country do not comply with the regulatory tolerance limit for aflatoxin set by the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Aflatoxin contamination in groundnuts is thus regarded as a time bomb waiting to explode.
Aflatoxin is a sleeping giant because for a long time people looked at satisfying the stomach, not food quality. What it does is that it causes, among others, cancer in humans.
We have what we call acute poisoning and chronic poisoning. Acute poisoning is when you consume large doses of the toxin in a diet at one time. And how does this manifest itself? You have symptoms like fever, vomiting, distended stomachs, swollen legs, or what people would refer to as edema. You have jaundice, and it could also, in many cases, result to death. Then we have the chronic poisoning, which is as a result of consuming relatively low doses of the toxin, but unsafe levels over a prolonged period of time.
Things like groundnut straw, we call them stock, okay, straw, is used as animal feed. Sometimes when you shell it, that shell can be used as animal feed. And the bad news about aflatoxin is that if an animal feeds on this, it goes into its milk, and therefore management practices not only of groundnut straw, but even maize straw to reduce contamination is very important.
Aflatoxin, especially in groundnuts, not only reduces production quality, yield, and palatability, but acute poisoning has resulted in fatalities, while long-term exposure has been associated with cancer, immunosuppression, as well as stunting in children.
A simple thing like sorting has been shown to greatly reduce the levels of aflatoxin, because there's a correlation between peanuts that look moldy, shriveled, discolored, and the levels of aflatoxin.
We tell our farmers that they should make sure, first of all, immediately after harvest, they should trot out any immature pods as they dry. Then once they are all dry, the mature pods are actually destroyed, and then the ones that are good and of good quality are stored in good stores.
Make sure you have varieties that mature early when the soil is still wet. Don't break your groundnut pods. Dry them in a clean place. Shell them carefully. Clean, remove what you think is contaminated. Store in a dry place and sell it.
Aflatoxin in groundnuts has thus been blamed for not only causing ripples in the international export trade in groundnuts in this part of the world, but also for interfering with an important food source, and as a result, impacting negatively in the well-being of many peasant farming communities right across Kenya, leading to increased food insecurity.
The role of curry in helping alleviate aflatoxin contamination is by undertaking research that will reduce aflatoxin contamination both on farm and in storage and even processing. Now, on farm, curry ensures that good quality seed is distributed to the farmers and also trained farmers in crop management, starting with the proper spacing and use of the proper seed rate.
But not all is lost, as farmers have learned through experience methods that can help them reduce contamination. But these methods are not always the correct or proper way for managing the aflatoxin menace.
Na ile iko sasa iko na aflatoxin, ukifanya hivyo utaona kama pande yako iko black na zingine iko brown. Sasa hiyo sasa iko tayari. Na sasa ile iko kwa samba utapata kama njugu, kama bado iko kwa samba, kuna zingine anza umemea. Sasa njugu kama hiyo mpaka kuwa na aflatoxin. Saa ile wanakongolewa inatakiwa kongolewa kama imeshakuwa dry. Alafu wakisa fanya hivyo kwa storage wanaweka kama pahali hakuna maji na pahali hakuna moisture, ndio inaweza kuwa bila maji ama bila aflatoxin.
Up to now, one major challenge has been access and availability of proper modern testing kits to detect aflatoxin levels in their groundnut produce.
Common methods used are one, TLC, or thin layer chromatography, which can be used both as a qualitative and a quantitative method. Qualitative means it tells you whether there is a toxin present or not present. Quantitative means it gives you the actual levels of the toxin present. We also have what we call the HPLC, the high performance liquid chromatograph. Very precise method, very sensitive and accurate, but also very costly.
ICRISAT uses the inexpensive ELISA-based test to detect and quantify aflatoxins in food crops. It has gone a step further to initiate testing facilities based on this method in Kenya, Malawi, and Mozambique. Such facilities play a key role in routine analysis, building capacity for advancement of aflatoxin research in those countries, and assist in quality certification of farm produce, allowing for enhanced competitiveness in domestic and international markets. This has not only empowered farmers but also created a benchmarking mechanism for any other such endeavors in the region.
ELISA means enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. They are simple methods, they are less costly, and you can be able to analyze a lot of samples, in a short period.
According to research, aflatoxins in food crops can occur before or after harvest and are caused when conditions favor aflatoxin production by the toxigenic fungi. These conditions in groundnuts include drought stress just before harvesting, poor crop management practices, e.g. monocropping, damaging of pods during weeding or harvesting, attack by other pests and diseases, delayed harvesting, poor drying, poor storage, poor transportation, poor packaging, and a general lack of adherence to quality management for processors. The Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, which is mandated to protect Kenya's agricultural produce from pests and diseases that impact upon the environment, economy, and human health, has a key role in helping farmers alleviate this scourge.
The role of KEPHIS when it comes to laboratory services is testing. We test for conformity to the allowed maximum limits. When they exceed, it means that that produce or product is not fit for human consumption.
Other stakeholders, like the Bureau of Standards, have been at the forefront of the fight against aflatoxin by developing and enforcing high food safety standards to ensure the local population consumes safe food and the country complies with other international regulations to foster good international trade of agricultural produce and food products.
The maximum levels that we accept according to the Kenya Bureau of Standards on peanuts and peanut butter is 10 parts per billion, with B1, aflatoxin B1 having a maximum of 5 parts per billion. We are advising the manufacturer to ensure that the peanuts should be checked for moisture content and should also be checked for aflatoxin. But where you can do rapid tests, like using the aflatoxin rapid test kits, that is advisable. You can check for the aflatoxin.
Among the benefits of rooting out aflatoxin from the local groundnut crop is the fact that foreign and lucrative markets become more accessible. The European Union has very strict standards for aflatoxin levels in food, 4 parts per billion for total aflatox and 2 parts per billion for aflatoxin B1.
We tend to adopt the Codex Alimentarius Commission levels. Those are regarded to be international. But my feeling is we should conduct studies, for our own population to determine the eating habits, the amounts consumed for a certain period, then look at all these factors and probably come up with our own.
Aside from trade benefits, safe food translates to improved security as a result of reduced losses from condemned produce, which subsequently leads to reduced malnutrition and a general well-being of the family. The disease burden associated with managing aflatoxin-related illness is also reduced both for the affected person as well as for government. It is the goal of organizations like ICRISAT and CARI, together with other partners such as the Kenya Bureau of Standards, to raise the level of awareness about the gains of improving food safety in Kenya. In particular, the fact that aflatoxin, which is common in groundnuts, can be controlled through better pre- and post-harvest practices, breeding for resistant varieties, planting of varieties that mature early, utilization of better and affordable methods of aflatoxin detection, improving regulatory framework for standardization and vetting, as well as impacting of knowledge about aflatoxins to the public.
Kama program ama serikali naweza kusaidia kwanza kufundisha watu vile naweza kuweka njugu kwa storage, na kusaidia na pesa kidogo ni jenge ile storage moja, alafu kama community ile njugu ikitokea alafu wanaweka mzuri.
Groundnut is like an ATM for a small scale farmer. So if we have proper policies on control of contamination within the groundnut industry, then it means there is affordable food and nutritious food to the small scale farmer and more money for the rural farmers.
Consuming a variety of foods obviously will reduce the risk. Because, for example, you'll find aflatoxin in groundnut, aflatoxin in maize. But rarely will you find the same in rice or potatoes or other foodstuffs. So definitely, by diversifying your diet will contribute to lowering the risk.
It's important that right through the food chain, all the parties involved employ good hygiene practices to ensure that the prevalence of molds is contained.
It's upon us, the processors, to put their foot down and insist on good products. If it is not good, leave it alone. We'd rather the consumers don't get peanut butter because there is no good groundnuts, rather than getting peanut butter which is compromised.
It is a battle that can only be won with the full cooperation of all the players within the groundnut value chain.